While developing my game, I noticed some weird camera behavior. Occasionally, my camera would just shake seemingly out of nowhere. Was this a bug in my code? A bug with Cinemachine? Could there be a lesson hidden in this bug for me? Initially, I thought the camera shake was due to how the camera was following the ship. To follow the ship, I configured the camera to use a framing transposer. I'm still pretty new to all of this, so I don't fully understand what a framing transposer is or does, but I like the way that it allows me to define these areas that determine how the camera should frame the ship. However, because the ship's movement is basically just the ship orbiting the cylinder here, the framing transposer alone did not give me the desired following effect. So I also made the camera the child of the ship. I'm not deeply familiar with how Cinemachine works under the hood, but to my understanding, a series of virtual cameras essentially determine the position of the real camera through a component called the Cinemachine brain. Given this, I started wondering whether the combination of the Cinemachine brain, together with the fact that the whole camera setup is a child of a moving ship, could cause some sort of a power struggle between the data from the Cinemachine brain and the rotation of the entire camera setup. So I moved the entire camera setup out of the ship, just to rule out that this general setup is the problem. But after I moved the camera out, I still had the random camera shake issue. So this rotating setup was likely not the cause. With the camera not following the ship anymore, I decided that I could also just turn off Cinemachine altogether, just to further isolate the issue. So I did that and found that with Cinemachine disabled, the issue disappeared. So I knew for sure it had something to do with Cinemachine. At this point, I started to think that what was happening here was really a camera shake event triggered by Cinemachine. Cinemachine provides an interface with which to shake the camera. I was using this interface to shake the camera when the ship started moving faster or to shake the camera when the ship hit an obstacle. In fact, the shake effect that occurred when the ship hit an obstacle looked very similar, if not identical, to the camera shake issue I was experiencing. So I decided to check whether my code that triggered this camera shake event was what was causing the camera to shake randomly. Logs quickly showed that this was not the case. The places where I triggered the camera shake were never executed when the random shake occurred. After further digging and after playing around with it some more, I noticed one log line that was printed the moment the camera shook. This log line showed that the ship was entering a trigger called deletion zone. But why was this causing a shake effect when my code that triggered the camera shake was never executed? Looking at the code to trigger a camera shake again, I noticed that there was this impulse source. I quickly found that this source was attached to my ship. Now you may be wondering how I could forget attaching something like this impulse source to the ship. The ship is my own game object after all. I'm afraid any answer I can provide to this will be embarrassing for me on some level, but I guess it boils down to I just forgot. With the complexity of the game increasing, it becomes harder to keep track of what components I have added to what game objects and why. That, coupled with the fact that I'm still pretty new to this, made forgetting something like this a foregone conclusion. But I digress. Upon looking at the impulse source, I noticed this section here. Could this be triggering a shake automatically whenever the ship entered a trigger? Oh look, I can exclude certain tags. How convenient. Let's try and exclude this deletion zone here. Sure enough, this resolved the issue. No more unwanted camera shake. One thing was still unclear though. The deletion zone isn't the only trigger my ship enters. Almost all of the things the ship can interact with are triggers. The coins, the obstacles, etc. How come those things weren't triggering the shake? Turns out the answer to that was pretty simple. The other objects are in a different layer. If I put them on the same layer as specified in the impulse source, the camera shake issue is back. And in a way that was even more annoying than before because now the camera basically shook all the time. So this weird bug I had actually taught me quite a lot about Cinemachine. I actually did not really need to trigger any camera shaking programmatically when hitting things. With the proper use of layer masks and tags, I could have Cinemachine trigger a camera shake automatically when hitting certain obstacles. Of course, I'm still doing this programmatically right now because why change something that I have already implemented? That would mean work, and who wants that? But that's pretty much it. I guess next time I should try to understand the components Unity provides before jumping into the code to try and do something manually. With complex systems like Unity, the challenge becomes less about how to code something imperatively and more about understanding how to configure components and how to wire them together. I guess I will try to keep that in mind going forward, or I'll just keep throwing code at the problem and wonder why weird things happen sometimes. Alright, that is it for now. I hope you enjoyed this brief journey from bug to lesson learned, and remember to check your impulse source if you notice unwanted camera shakes. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Maybe I'll have more fun tidbits like this for you in the future. See you next time. Bye.